What if I told you that most of what you believe about yourself, your habits, your emotions, your very identity, isn't truly yours? Not because someone else deceived you, but because your own brain has been quietly shaping your reality based on past conditioning. Right now, at this very moment, you are running on programs you never consciously chose. Programs that dictate how you think, how you feel, and how you live your life. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you had an original thought? Not a reaction based on past experience, not a judgment filtered through old beliefs, but a genuinely new thought. For most people, the answer is never. But what if you could rewrite them? What if, with a single shift in awareness, you could step out of the loop that's been holding you back and finally take control? Because science has proven something extraordinary. You can. And today, you're going to learn exactly how. Every great achiever, every person who has ever broken through their limitations, started with one thing: a deep, undeniable belief in their ability to change. Not wishful thinking, not forced positivity, but a biological shift that rewired their brain to operate on a completely different level. Most people never escape their past because they are living in it. Every time you think a thought, your brain fires neurons in a specific pattern. And when you think the same thought over and over again about who you are, what you can or cannot do, you reinforce that pattern, you strengthen it, and before you know it, that pattern becomes automatic. That's why most people wake up every morning and unknowingly relive the same emotional experiences as yesterday. They don't even realize they are trapped in a cycle because their brain has made it feel normal. I remember working with a brilliant neurosurgeon, Harvard-educated, world-renowned, outwardly successful by every measure, yet inside he was trapped in a prison of anxiety, self-doubt, and emptiness. When I showed him his brain scans, he was shocked. The areas of his brain associated with stress and fear were lit up like a Christmas tree. The regions linked to joy, creativity, and connection were practically dormant. He looked at me and said, "Is this really who I am?" And I told him what I'm telling you now. No, this is who you've become, but it's not who you truly are. Your thoughts are not just abstract concepts. They are electrochemical events that trigger the release of specific molecules, neuropeptides, hormones, proteins, that flood your body within seconds. Every thought you think is literally creating your biological reality. But here's what's fascinating. The average human has about 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day, and neuroscience tells us that 90% of those thoughts are the same as yesterday's. Most people are sleepwalking through life, running the same mental programs day after day, and then wondering why nothing changes. They're living in a neurological prison of their own making. The latest research from quantum biology shows us something remarkable. Your DNA emits tiny particles of light called biophotons. These aren't random flickers. They're part of an intelligent communication system. And when you elevate your emotional state, when you focus your attention with clear intention, the coherence of these biophotons changes, literally altering how your genes express themselves. This isn't metaphysics. This is hard science being conducted in laboratories around the world. Let me tell you about Maria. She came to one of our advanced workshops with stage 4 cancer. Doctors had given her months to live, but for 4 days, she dedicated herself to the work. She learned to break the addiction to her old self. She practiced entering coherent brain states. She focused her energy not on her disease, but on her vision of perfect health. 6 months later, her doctors couldn't find a trace of cancer in her body. Was this a miracle? No. It was neurobiology and quantum physics in action. You see, when Maria changed her thoughts and elevated her emotions, she changed the electromagnetic field generated by her heart, which is 5,000 times stronger than the field produced by your brain. This coherent energy affected the quantum field around her, literally informing her cells to reorganize into a pattern of health rather than disease. The electromagnetic field of your heart extends 3 to 4 feet beyond your physical body. Think about that. Your energy isn't just contained within you. It radiates outward, interacting with everything around you. But here's the problem. Most people's energy is fragmented, scattered, diluted. Why? Because they're constantly focused on the external world, seeking validation, worrying about others' opinions, reacting to circumstances. Studies show that nearly 70% of people's mental and emotional energy is directed outward, leaving them drained and disconnected from their true potential. And this brings me to perhaps the most important discovery of all. Your attention is literal energy. It's measurable, quantifiable energy. And where you place your attention determines where your energy flows. Every time you check your phone, which studies show the average person does 262 times per day, you're reinforcing neural pathways that say, "My worth is determined by external validation." Every time you compare yourself to someone on social media, you're bathing your body in stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Over time, your body becomes addicted to these chemicals. You start unconsciously creating situations that produce these familiar feelings just to feel normal. It's like living on emotional junk food, momentarily satisfying but deeply depleting. But what happens when you break this cycle? What happens when you reclaim your energy and direct it inward? Something remarkable occurs. Brain scans show that as you shift from normal waking consciousness, beta waves, into more profound states of alpha and theta, your entire energy system transforms. In the theta state, your brain becomes hyper-receptive to change. The old neural networks linked to limitation and fear begin to weaken, while new pathways associated with possibility and empowerment strengthen. This isn't just theory, we can measure it. Using advanced EEG technology, we can see these changes happening in real time. Let me tell you what happens physiologically when you enter these coherent states. Your heart rhythm becomes more ordered. Your brain waves synchronize across both hemispheres. Your body produces fewer stress hormones and more chemicals linked to healing, creativity, and well-being. Even more remarkable, studies conducted at Princeton University have shown that conscious intention can actually affect random event generators, sophisticated machines designed to produce completely random outcomes. When individuals enter high coherence states and focus their attention, these machines become less random. Think about what this means. Your focused consciousness literally affects physical reality. But here's the crucial insight that most people miss. Transformation doesn't happen from a single thought, just like walking through tall grass leaves only a faint impression the first time. Real change requires repetition. With consistent practice, what once felt unfamiliar becomes second nature. Neuroscience has discovered that it takes about 66 days of focused effort to rewire the brain, to turn new thought patterns into lasting neural pathways. This is why most people struggle to create lasting change. They give up before their brain has fully adapted to the new patterns. So how do you reprogram your mind for success? The key is mental rehearsal combined with elevated emotion. Each morning, before engaging with the outside world, take 20 minutes to sit in stillness. First, focus on your breath to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which puts your brain in an optimal state for transformation. Then, vividly imagine yourself embodying the changes you wish to see. Picture your new behaviors, thoughts, and feelings in rich detail. But, and this is crucial, it's not enough to just think about these changes. You must feel them. Your brain doesn't respond to wishful thinking. It responds to the emotions you embody. When you combine clear mental imagery with elevated emotions like joy, gratitude, and unwavering confidence, you create the perfect environment for lasting neural change. Studies of advanced meditators show something fascinating. Their brainwaves synchronize in a phenomenon called coherence. But this isn't just happening in their minds. Their entire electromagnetic field becomes more organized, more powerful. Why does this matter? Because at the quantum level, everything is energy and information. Your thoughts and emotions are not just personal experiences. They're signals you send into the quantum field every moment of every day. In our research, we've detected measurable changes in the quantum field up to 3 meters away from individuals in these coherent states. This is scientific evidence that focused intention doesn't just alter your inner world, it affects reality itself. Most people try to create a new future while clinging to the emotions of their past. It's like trying to drive forward while staring in the rearview mirror. True transformation requires breaking this cycle. The key: daily commitment to mental rehearsal. Just 22 minutes of focused practice can generate new synaptic connections that fundamentally shift how your brain interprets reality. Neuroscience confirms that neurons that fire together wire together. Every time you repeat this process, you strengthen these new pathways, making your desired reality more and more inevitable. This isn't about effortful struggle. It's about entering a state where your brain waves shift from beta, thinking mode, to alpha and theta, highly receptive states. In theta, your mind is primed to absorb new programming effortlessly. This is how you rewire yourself at the deepest level. So how do you know when transformation is taking hold? The signs are undeniable. Your thoughts start changing automatically. You no longer have to remind yourself to think positively. It becomes your default state. Physiologically, your heart rate variability becomes more coherent, signaling a balanced and harmonious state. You start experiencing synchronicities, meaningful coincidences that align with your new frequency. This isn't coincidence, it's physics. Your energetic field is shifting, and the quantum field around you is responding. In our research, we've seen something incredible. When people maintain these elevated states consistently, their genetic expression changes. Inflammatory markers decrease. Immune function improves. Even telomeres, key indicators of longevity, lengthen. And perhaps most powerfully, the emotional triggers that once controlled you start to lose their grip. Situations that used to throw you into stress and self-doubt now barely register, because your brain has literally rewired itself to operate at a higher frequency. Let me be clear. Transformation isn't about wishful thinking. It's about taking action right now, in this very moment, not tomorrow, not when the timing feels perfect, because the present moment is where all change begins. Here's your blueprint. Every morning before engaging with the outside world, commit to 20 minutes of focused mental rehearsal. This isn't passive meditation. It's active neurological reprogramming. Sit up straight. Breathe deeply. Let your mind settle. Then step into the vivid mental reality of your future self. Don't visualize from your current mindset. Embody the emotions of already being that person. The brain doesn't distinguish between real and vividly imagined experiences, and with repetition, this new identity becomes your automatic default. Consistency is everything. In just 1 month of daily practice, you can build neural networks as strong as patterns you've reinforced for years. This is not abstract theory. This is tangible biological change at the cellular level. Your future self already exists in the quantum field as a potential reality. Every time you align your thoughts, emotions, and actions with that future, you magnetize it into the present. When you shift your energy, you shift your life. And when you shift your life, you shift the world. The moment you stop living in the past and start creating your future is the moment everything changes. That moment isn't tomorrow. It isn't when everything is perfect. You know, I've had so many people come up to me after these talks and say, "Dr. Joe, this all sounds amazing, but is it really possible for me? I've been this way for so long." And I always tell them the same thing. Your past is not your future, unless you're living from your past. Let me share something remarkable with you. When we study the brainwaves of someone in deep meditation, something fascinating happens. Their brain shifts from beta waves, the frequency of your normal waking state, to alpha waves, which are slower and more coherent. Then, as they go deeper, they enter theta state. Now, here's what's extraordinary about theta. It's the same brainwave state you experience just before falling asleep and just after waking up. It's when the conscious mind steps aside and the subconscious becomes accessible. This is the doorway to rewiring your brain. When you're in theta, the analytical mind, the part that's always saying that's impossible or you can't do that, temporarily goes offline. The barrier between the conscious and subconscious mind becomes permeable. In this state, you're no longer trying to force change through willpower. You're installing new programs directly into your subconscious operating system. And this is crucial because the subconscious mind controls 95% of who you are. It runs your autonomic nervous system, your habits, your emotional reactions, all the things you do without thinking about them. Have you ever driven home from work and suddenly realized you don't remember the journey? That was your subconscious mind driving the car while your conscious mind was elsewhere. We've mapped the brain activity of thousands of people during these transformative states. What we've discovered is that when someone truly lets go of their analytical mind and surrenders to the process, their brain produces a surge of delta waves, the slowest brainwave frequency. Delta is typically associated with deep sleep, but when it occurs during conscious meditation, something magical happens. The person enters what we call the void, a state of pure potentiality, where the old self momentarily dissolves, creating space for a new self to emerge. In this state, you're no longer bound by your past. You're no longer defined by your history. You exist in a field of infinite possibilities. I remember working with a man named Robert. For 15 years, he'd suffered from debilitating depression. He'd tried everything: medications, therapy, even electroconvulsive treatments. Nothing worked. During our 4-day workshop, Robert learned to enter these profound meditative states. On the 3rd day, something extraordinary happened. As he described it later, it felt like the heaviness I'd carried for so long suddenly lifted. It wasn't gradual. It was like a switch had been flipped. What happened in Robert's brain? We measured a dramatic increase in gamma waves, the fastest brainwave frequency, associated with peak awareness and cognitive integration. His brain was literally reorganizing itself, forming new neural connections while pruning away the old pathways linked to depression. 6 months later, Robert remains depression-free. His brain has maintained these new neural networks because he's continued his daily practice of mental rehearsal. Let's talk about something called long-term potentiation. This is the neuroscientific term for how lasting connections form between neurons in your brain. When you repeatedly activate certain neural circuits through focused attention and elevated emotion, the synaptic connections between those neurons strengthen. Over time, these circuits become your default mode of operation. This is why consciousness is so powerful. You're literally reshaping your brain's physical structure through your thoughts and feelings. But there's another element that most people miss: the quantum field. Quantum physics has shown us that at the most fundamental level, everything, including you, is energy and information. The particles that make up your body are constantly exchanging information with the quantum field around you. When you enter a coherent state of consciousness, you're not just changing your brain, you're changing how your energy interacts with this field. At the Institute, we've conducted experiments where we measure the electromagnetic field around someone's body before and after they enter these coherent states. The difference is staggering. Before, their energy signature is chaotic, fragmented, scattered. After, it becomes organized, coherent, powerful, extending meters beyond their physical body. This coherent energy doesn't just stay contained within you. It radiates outward, affecting everything around you. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately felt the vibe was off? Or met someone and instantly felt drawn to their energy? That's your subconscious mind reading their electromagnetic field and providing you with information your conscious mind can't articulate. Your energy precedes you everywhere you go. It speaks louder than your words, your actions, even your physical appearance. So the question becomes, what energy are you broadcasting into the world? Most people's energy is fragmented because their attention is constantly divided. They're physically in one place, but mentally in another. They're saying one thing but feeling something else. They're projecting one image while hiding another. This incongruence creates energetic chaos, and chaos cannot create order. When you practice the mental rehearsal I described earlier, you're creating coherence between your thoughts, your feelings, and your actions. You're aligning your conscious mind, your subconscious mind, and your body. This alignment generates an electromagnetic field so powerful, it begins to organize matter around it. Let me give you a concrete example from our research. We worked with a group of 120 people over 4 days. Each morning, they spent 2 hours in deep meditation, focusing on becoming the person they wanted to be in their future. We measured their heart rate variability, brain waves, and immune markers before and after. The results? After just 4 days, their cortisol levels, the primary stress hormone, dropped by an average of 19%. Their DHEA levels, a marker of youth and vitality, increased by 23%. Their immune function, measured by secretory IgA, improved by a staggering 49%. These aren't subtle changes. These are dramatic biological transformations occurring in just 4 days of focused mental practice. The problem is, most people want the evidence before they do the work. They say, "Show me it's real, then I'll believe it." But that's backward. Quantum physics tells us that observation affects reality. You have to participate in your transformation to witness it. As the saying goes, you have to believe it to see it, not see it to believe it. In the placebo effect, which the medical community often dismisses, a person takes a sugar pill believing it's medicine, and their body physically heals itself. This isn't imagination. Their brain releases the exact same chemicals that the real medication would have triggered. This is the power of thought combined with elevated emotion. In this case, the emotion of absolute certainty that they will heal. What if you could harness this same power consciously? What if, instead of needing an external pill, you could produce these healing chemicals on demand through focused thought and elevated emotion? This isn't hypothetical. This is precisely what our research participants are doing every day. But here's the challenge most people face. We've become addicted to our emotions. Emotions are chemical. They're molecules of feeling that flood your body when you have certain thoughts. If you've spent years feeling anxious, that emotion has become familiar to your body. Your cells have developed receptors specifically designed to receive those anxiety chemicals. When you suddenly stop feeling anxious, your body goes into withdrawal. It starts sending signals to your brain. Something's wrong. I need those familiar chemicals. This is why transformation can be uncomfortable at first. You're breaking a chemical addiction to your old self. So how do you overcome this addiction? By becoming conscious of your unconscious states, by noticing when you're falling into old emotional patterns, by catching yourself in the act of being your old self, and then, most importantly, by making a different choice. Not tomorrow, not later today, in that exact moment. Each time you make this choice, you're literally reshaping your neural architecture. You're telling your body, this is who we are now. The quantum field responds not to what you want. It responds to who you are being. Most people think manifesting is about wanting something enough. But wanting comes from lack, from not having. And that emotion of lack is what you broadcast to the field. True creation comes from already being, from embodying the energy of your future before it manifests physically. When you feel gratitude for something before it happens, when you celebrate an outcome before it occurs, when you absolutely know in your bones that your desired reality is already yours, that's when the quantum field responds with synchronicity. We've seen this time and again in our workshops. People who master this state of already being suddenly find their external reality reorganizing itself around their new energy. Job opportunities appear out of nowhere. Relationships transform overnight. Health conditions that had persisted for decades spontaneously resolve. Is this magic? Number, it's physics. It's the law of resonance, like attracts like. When you change your energetic signature, you attract different experiences, different opportunities, different realities. So the greatest question you can ask yourself is not, what do I want? The greatest question is, who do I need to be to create the life I desire? What thoughts would that version of you think? What emotions would that version of you feel? How would that version of you perceive the world? When you answer these questions and then embody those answers through daily mental rehearsal, you're no longer hoping for change. You're creating it. And let me be clear. This isn't about sitting on a mountaintop and merely thinking positive thoughts. This is about priming your brain and body to take inspired action. When you align your thoughts, feelings, and energy with your desired future, you naturally begin taking actions that support that future. It's not forced. It's not willpower. It's the natural expression of who you've become. I've witnessed thousands of people transform their lives using these principles. I've seen incurable diseases heal. I've seen decades of depression lift. I've seen relationships restore after years of conflict. Not because these people were special or chosen, but because they applied these universal principles consistently. The same power that allows them to transform is available to you right now. Your life is not defined by your past unless you live from your past. Your future is not determined by your present circumstances unless you continue to think, feel, and act the same way. In this very moment, you have the power to begin anew. Your brain is waiting to be reshaped. Your genes are waiting for new signals. The quantum field is waiting for your new energetic signature. The only question is, will you continue living as the person your past has created, or will you become the person your future is calling you to be? The choice isn't tomorrow. The choice isn't when everything is perfect. The choice is now. And that choice, made with clear intention and elevated emotion, will ripple across the quantum field, transforming not just your biology, not just your reality, but the very fabric of your existence. So close your eyes for a moment. Feel the energy in this room. Feel the potential within you. This is your moment of creation. What will you create?